Well, Bob, some areas looking like Miami and that area
Yes.
kind of skirted past them, but others getting ready.
Yeah, so far so good for Miami
Yeah.
and the Keys, not too bad. And it looks like even Fort Lauderdale, it could have been a lot worse
Right.
there. We're still watching it, and you know it's going to come back around maybe
could
too, but it's
scoop,
going to be a
yes,
weaker
right,
storm.
right.
One thing to note, this is a history maker. Obviously, we talked about the fact that it's the strongest storm ever we've had in the Atlantic Basin so far south. It was at one point a Category 5, below 13 degrees north latitude. That was the strongest ever, and now it's the only Category 5 or major hurricane, I should say, to hit 3 places: Cuba, Haiti, and the Bahamas. So no storm has ever done that.
Wow.
Had major impacts from one storm, and now Florida. So add another country to that possibly this evening. Unbelievable storm it is, and it has really caused lots of concern along the east coast of Florida, specifically from West Palm Beach northward now. We've had our first feeder band, you would say, move on through. It brought winds up to 40 miles an hour, and that one is through now. It had caused a tree to fall down near US 41 near Port Charlotte, 1 mile northwest of Port Charlotte. And also, look at this, pretty significant line of storms moving through Orlando, getting set to move on into Hillsborough County. And the storm center itself is right over Freeport, but we talked about this at the beginning of the newscast. You'll notice a little jog to the left in the last few frames. This may just be a little bit of a wobble. Sometimes these big storms like this kind of wobble around the secondary eye wall that may be forming. So this may be going through some sort of transition right now, but it really is quite noticeable on the radar loop over the past hour. This motion was off to the north, and then just the last few frames there, it starts to head off more toward the west. So we still have to keep a very close watch on it. If it does get more of a westerly component to it, that means those tropical storm force winds will get closer to Hardee and Highlands County, as well as possibly even the west coast of Florida. Right now, we don't expect to see any kind of sustained wind at tropical storm force in Sarasota, Manatee, or Charlotte counties, or even DeSoto counties at this time. But Freeport has had their fair share of some very intense winds, and you can see again that's where the center is. For us, things are fairly quiet. There's where that tree was knocked down by the brief wind that moved on through, and also wind gusts at the Sarasota Bradenton Airport up to 40 miles an hour. Also right there near Lido, a wind gust up to 40 miles an hour. This line is not all that intense right now. It could gain a little strength as it moves off toward the southwest, but for the time being, things are looking fairly calm here. Tropical Storm Watch, we'll go over that real quickly again for all the coastal counties, all the way down to Fort Myers, and then a tropical storm warning in effect for inland counties. And then this is all a hurricane warning stretching all the way down to just north of Miami. And it looks like Cape Canaveral north will get the full brunt of the storm if it continues on its current path off to the northwest, although places to the south cannot let their guard down. Right now it's 81 degrees. Some clouds are out there. And as far as the high goes today, 89 above average. We'll see 87-degree temperature tomorrow, 95 the record. A couple of things going on. We have another hurricane out here, if you didn't know it, but it's not having an impact on any land right now. This is Nicole, and quite a bit of dry air around it. It should be just kind of sitting out there, and will sit out there for the next 5 days. This dry air will eventually work into our area on Saturday once we see Matthew head off toward the north and northeast. The radar, actually the enhanced satellite imagery, is showing a very intense storm now moving right through Freeport and the Grand Bahama Island, and then the forecast path and track take it off toward the northwest. There's Orlando. It could be there if it moves on more of a westerly course, and the strong winds up to 120 to 125 miles an hour near Daytona Beach if it stays right there along the Gulf Stream, where the water temperatures are extremely warm there, and that would just give it more energy and cause it to be more of a destructive force as we move through time on Friday. And get a look at this. We talked about it a few days ago. It's doing a loop-to-loop. We'll be back into that hurricane cone. I've never seen this where the cone actually does a loop and comes back, and we're in the cone again. For the possibility of a tropical storm. Now, it's not this is what it would be, a tropical storm with winds at 45 miles an hour in 5 days from now. That's what it's projecting right now if it were to come back. So a very unusual looking cone. It's more of a circle, if you will. The forecast wind gusts. Now, these are gusts. Occasionally will come through as these feeder bands work their way through on Friday. We're talking 30 to 40 to possibly 50 mile an hour gusts at times, but generally winds will be out of the northwest at 20 to 25 miles an hour, possibly as high as 30 to 40 into Hardee and into Highlands County. By Friday night late, the winds will start to subside. It'll still be a bit breezy, I would suspect, on through Saturday, but not as much on Sunday. And again, the hurricane force winds just moving right up and down the coast of East Florida and then eventually tracking off toward the Carolinas. Here's the forecast then. Boating obviously out of the question tomorrow and even on Saturday as the winds and seas will still be up. I'll look for 70% chance for showers and storms. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, the wind gusts as high as 40 to 50 with some of the feeder bands, and then a much better weekend. And then we'll be watching the tropics again for what could be a return of Matthew. Back to you.